If you have questions or suggestions for future podcasts, please submit them in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Voting with your feet. Hi, I'm Dave Arnott, the Christian Economist. Let's vote! I had 5 grandkids in the van recently, and we were trying to decide which park to visit. One of the 10-year-olds suggested energetically, let's vote! Where did an American 10-year-old get the idea that she had the power to determine the market? Well, from the market. And that's what people moving from one state to another are proving today in the United States. They are proving they have the power to vote about where they live. People are voting with their feet as they move from one state to another, as explained in a recent Wall Street Journal article titled, "The Great Blue to Red State Migration Continues." Now, I've discussed some of this topic in my podcast number 131, titled Abraham and Wealth Migration. And the great economist Arthur Laffer explains state differences in his book, The Wealth of States. The Wall Street Journal explains in their article that in the category of migration to other states, the lost leader, predictably, was California, which lost the most residents to other states, about 340,000. And then it's New York. They lost about 220,000. Texas gained almost 475,000, and Florida gained just under 375,000. Quoting the Wall Street Journal article, now, quote, "You don't need artificial intelligence to spot what the losing states have in common. High taxes, burdensome business regulation, and inflated energy and housing prices. Those states also have higher than average unemployment as a result of businesses moving out of those states," end quote from the Wall Street Journal. You know, the article actually quotes a chapter from the Old Testament. Listen for it. Quote, "A big problem for Democratic-run states is that their affluent residents are leading the exodus," get it? "and they pay the majority of income tax that supports their expansive welfare programs. This is a major reason California's tax revenue over the last 5 months has come in at about $24.5 billion below projections, despite a rebounding stock market." Kind of reminds you of the scene from the old movie The 10 Commandments. Remember that? Where the Israelites are leaving Egyptian bondage. And in an economic sense, the folks leaving those states now were in economic bondage. Hey, you may have heard that Benjamin Franklin's choice for the Great Seal of the United States was those same Israelites fleeing Egypt, just as Americans are now fleeing California and New York. Maybe you can't see it carefully on this image, but it reads, "Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God." The image shows the Israelites being pursued by Pharaoh's army. People are moving to red states, and Moses parted the Red Sea. Goodness, there are just too many parallels that can't be overlooked. In the Holy Land, I've heard the phrase, "from the Med to the Red." So we should expect a political cartoon soon with Moses holding up his staff and parting red and blue seas or red and blue states. Freedom. In my classroom at Dallas Baptist University, I've often crossed my arms and stated, the intersection of Christianity and economics is freedom. It's such an important concept that it's the first of the 10 biblical commandments of economics that I found with Sergei Seidamatov while writing the book, Biblical Economic Policy. Well, that's what we're witnessing in the migration between states. You don't have to conduct a survey of the estimated 8 million people who illegally crossed the southern border of the United States in the last 3 years. They are seeking freedom. Gee, I wonder how many people crossed the border the opposite way. Not many, I suppose, huh? Quoting this Wall Street Journal article again, quote, "Democratic governors such as California's Gavin Newsom portray right-leaning states as benighted and undemocratic. But then, how do they explain why so many of their state's residents are moving to those states?" End quote from the Wall Street Journal. Well, the answer, because people vote with their feet. The end game. Where does this all end? Now, a good case study might be Yugoslavia, who after the fall of communism split into 6 constituent republics. Each group got their own country. That's the way the United States was designed, with states' rights. But centralization of government, especially centralization of power in the presidency under Woodrow Wilson, FDR, then LBJ, has made the centralized government, and specifically the presidency, more important than the founders ever intended. The United States is not a people, it's an idea. And it's an idea which now has two different interpretations. I told my students at Dallas Baptist University that if they had voted yet, they voted for either of those two ideas, Jefferson or Hamilton. Jefferson wanted a more decentralized government with more states' rights. Hamilton wanted a more centralized federal government. It's no coincidence that a liberal playwright authored the stage play Hamilton, and the actors sided with the Democrat Party. Now, the level of centralization should be based on the value created by that centralization versus the concomitant loss of freedom that comes with it. But the Hamilton idea, adopted now by the Democrat Party, is to centralize as much as possible simply for the sake of power. Jan Jekielek of the Epoch Times has interviewed Christine Anderson from the European Union. The video is titled, "Is the EU Destroying Europe?" She asked this fascinating question. Now, why would immigrants assimilate into a society that hates itself? End quote. Now, here's the economic analysis. I've used this three-part concentric circle to explain the relationship of three unions in Europe. The outside circle is an economic union of 27 nations. The next circle in is 20 of those countries because they belong to the financial union called the Eurozone. And in that middle circle, you have 0 countries belonging to what I would call the United States of Europe. However, folks in the UK would say Brexit was caused by their loss of national sovereignty, and they were a member of the United States of Europe. Worldview. I was listening to a Catholic radio station a few years ago during the Right to Life March in Washington, D.C., and a participant told the interviewer, "We're just going to outproduce them," meaning Christians are having children, atheists are not. Maybe that's true of the states as well. Red states will draw population away from blue states. Now, economics is a social science where we simply notice differences. This one is pretty obvious. People are moving to better land as Abraham did when he moved from Ur of the Chaldeans to the Promised Land, as I explain in more detail in my podcast number 131. Another of my podcasts, number 72, is titled Two Worlds. It says we're dividing into two different societies in the same country. My observation is that it's based on worldview. Just a couple of examples today because the idea is more fully developed in the aforementioned podcast. The Christian worldview includes the concepts of creation, fall, redemption. If humans were not created by God, abortion would be acceptable. If they are, it's the greatest sin of my generation. Another one, worldview effect on economics is easy to see. If you don't believe people are fallen, you want the government to have more control. Ginger and I were reading books on vacation recently, and just when she invited me to read this page, I said the same thing to her about my book. Now, her book was about how fallen people have taken advantage of the federal government program that serves kidney dialysis patients. And my book was about how the federal government's Bureau of Indian Affairs was corrupt. Look, we could have been reading just about any book. Evidence of the fallen nature is all around us. To deny that is denial of reality. The market works. I often hear complaints about Walmart paying low salaries and selling cheap goods. Okay, the market does not always work, but it mostly does. So my response to Walmart criticizers is to go visit with your neighbors. Apparently, they are happy shopping at Walmart, or they wouldn't go there. They are voting with their feet. The market works almost all the time. Okay, an example. If you buy Hunt's ketchup in the 24-ounce bottle for $1.89, and the next time you visit the store, it's replaced by Heinz in the 32-ounce bottle for $2.29, don't blame Walmart. They're responding to the demands of your neighbors. Yes, Walmart wants to affect the market, but in a free market, they have very little power. You and I have the power. Let's vote. I'm Dave Arnott, the Christian Economist. Fear God, tell the truth, earn a profit. See you next time. For more information, please visit us online at davearnott.com. If you have questions or suggestions for future podcasts, please submit them online or in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.